Even though he and Sabine were twins, they did not look the least bit alike. Like the rest of the Bonhoeffer children, Sabine had dark hair and flashing brown eyes. Dietrich was the odd one out. He had the same bright blue eyes and white blonde hair as his mother. Often, when they were on family outings, strangers assumed Dietrich was a friend and not even a member of the family. Soon, the entire family was seated in the dining room for breakfast. The heavy wooden table was arrayed with a loaf of rye bread, butter, cheese, wild raspberry jam, and Dietrich's favorite, hot cocoa. Even though it was going to be a busy day, Dietrich's mother, Paula, insisted on starting the day with a Bible story, family prayers, and the singing of a hymn. This was the way each day in Dietrich's life had begun so far, and he loved the way his mother could make Old Testament stories come alive. Today was no exception. All 8 Bonhoeffer children sat mesmerized as their mother told of David's slingshot whirling above his head as he faced Goliath. When breakfast and prayers were over, Dietrich and Sabine wandered around the grounds of their home one last time. Dietrich knew that the family was moving 200 miles northwest to Berlin, Germany's capital, where his father, Karl Bonhoeffer, had a new job as head of psychiatry and neurology at the University of Berlin. Taking each other's hand, the twins walked down to the creek, where they had often gathered raspberries for the cook, and past the spot where they could count on seeing a dragonfly or two. They walked past the tennis court, where their favorite memories were not of tennis, but of watching their older brothers and sisters ice skate during the long winter months. It had been their father's suggestion to pour water on the tennis court and wait for it to freeze like an ice rink. Dietrich's 2 older sisters, Ursula and Christine, loved figure skating on the smooth, frozen surface. Dietrich and Sabine walked into the wooded area where Dietrich and his older brothers had built forts and dug caves into the clay bank. "I wish all the animals could come with us," Dietrich said wistfully, as they climbed over the fence into the cook's garden. "Me too," Sabine agreed. "But Mama says the family that's moving in wants to look after them for us." As he thought about the room of the house where their mother allowed them to keep animals, Dietrich hoped this was the case. The room was filled with lively rabbits, guinea pigs, birds, lizards, and snakes, all kept in neat cages. Sometimes one of the creatures would escape, causing great excitement in the house. Dietrich wondered what the new house in Berlin would be like. His mother had said that living in a big city would be quite different, but Fraulein Käthe Horn would still teach him and Sabine, so he had no need to be concerned about going off to school just yet. A succession of horse-drawn carriages pulled up to the front of the Bonhoeffer house. Dietrich and Sabine headed toward them. Soon the whole family was seated in the carriages, and moments later they were off to the station to catch the train to Berlin. As the carriages pulled away, Dietrich took one last look at the only home he'd ever lived in. He would miss the rambling 3-story house and the wonderful grounds with their beckoning adventures. He hoped his mother was right when she said that living in Berlin would be just as much fun. The train trip was wonderful for Dietrich. He stuck his head out the window as the huge steam engine huffed its way out of the station. He watched as they left the buildings of Breslau behind and headed into the German countryside. It was late March, and signs of spring were everywhere. New leaves clung to the boughs of trees. Flowers dotted pastures in which cows grazed, and the air rushing in through the window seemed to have a hint of sweet fragrance. When the train stopped at stations along the way, Dietrich watched as men and women climbed aboard. As the train began to fill with people, he listened to the adults' conversations. Some talked about the weather or what they intended to do in Berlin, while others talked about things happening in the German Republic and about Kaiser Wilhelm II. Eventually, the train puffed to a halt in Berlin. Trains were pulled up at platforms everywhere. Dietrich had never seen so many people coming and going. As he climbed down to the station platform, Dietrich